Good day, everyone. So, this is a special episode of A House Full of Stories, which I'm airing because today is the last day of 2020. And I had a feeling that I should bid goodbye to this year in a proper fashion. Now, I know this year has been very difficult for a lot of us. A lot of us have lost people we love, a lot of us have lost our jobs. We are struggling, and there is always a fear of the pandemic catching up to us, of the pandemic infecting us, and so many different ways in which there is a general sense of foreshadowing in the air. That being said, the vaccine is coming out, so perhaps in a short time we will have beaten it. We will have come back to normal lives. We will have lived in a city without masks. Let us see. I am not a doctor. I wish I was. If I was a doctor, I would have been able to give you a little bit of a reassurance of my own kind. But all I can do is present a story before you today. So that's what I'm planning to do. Now, today's story is The Canterville Ghost, written by Oscar Wilde. And Oscar Wilde is a very famous novelist and short story writer. And he is very special to me because I share my birthday with him. So, this is a double whammy from my side. The Canterville Ghost was in school. I studied it in school, an abridged version. And when I was reading the unabridged version, I sort of got carried away by the attention to detail in it. Unfortunately, if I were to share the unabridged version in totality with you, it would be a little long, and this video would have crossed over a half an hour stretch, so I'm forced to compress it slightly. Onward with the story. Mr. Hiram B. Otis and his family are not the kind of people who believe in ghosts. So when they purchase Canterville Manor and are warned that a ghost has been sighted there on multiple occasions and that this ghost is very malevolent and not benevolent, they choose not to believe the warnings of paranormal activity taking place in the house. Instead, they reassure the owner that as far as they are concerned, uh, the house is just a house. Now, Now they ride down from Ascot, which is the nearest train station, and there are in total a family of six. There is Hiram B. Otis, the leader. There is his wife, who used to be on the stage. There is 15-year-old Hannah. Sorry, her name is Virginia. I'm really sorry. Her name is Virginia. She's 15 years old. There are two twin boys who are very mischievous, as boys that age are want to be, and there is the eldest son, Washington, who was named in a fit of patriotism, apparently, if that is what Wilde writes. So, this family of six arrive at the Canterville Manor. They are greeted by the housekeeper, who lets them into the parlor. And the first thing that Mrs. Otis notices in the parlor is that there is a bloodstain on the woodwork. So she's immediately intrigued and she asks, "What is this stain?" And the housekeeper replies, "That is blood. It was spilled there when Sir Simon Canterville strangled his wife to death." And Mrs. Otis is horrified. And the eldest son, Washington, he takes a bottle of cleaning fluid and he viciously rubs the bloodstain away. Now, the moment the bloodstain has been removed from the flooring, a lightning flash occurs, thunder roars, and the rain starts to come down in sheets. Now, most of my British friends have told me that England by default is a very rainy country, and apparently it rains there a hell of a lot. But this is some sort of a special rain. It's a furious rain. It's a tempest, and strange things will be afoot that night. It would seem. And then when the family has retired to bed after supper, there is suddenly a very strange noise, the clanking of chains in the house, followed by footsteps. Now, this noise wakes Mr. Otis, Mr. Hirambi Otis. He wakes up and he gets out of bed and he goes to his door and opens it. And he is found face to face with the ghost. Now, the ghost is a fearsome sight. The ghost has red eyes, eyes that are burning red. The ghost has a shaggy mane of grey hair, dirty fingernails, rotting yellow teeth, and his hands and feet are chained. They have got thick cuffs on them, which are rusty with age. Mr. Otis very calmly hands him a bottle of oil and says, "This is for your chains. You must oil them, I insist. You cannot go around making uh, a mockery of the sleep that we need. You will wake up the entire family next time. This cannot be allowed." The ghost is shocked because he's had a very impressive curriculum vitae of sorts, alright. Whenever someone has seen him, they have at least screamed. He remembers the time when one of the ladies of Canterville House was sitting in front of a mirror getting dressed, and all he did was place two skeletal hands on her shoulder, and she immediately lost her mind, never to have retrieved it. He has populated the sanitariums of England with his magical apparative powers. He has also gone with many a earl to the grave sites. He has changed himself into a black dog. He has appeared in people's rooms while they sleep. So many things he has done, and yet here is this one man who is calmly, you know, giving him a bottle of oil and telling him to apply it on his chains. This is most irregular. And so, in a blinding fury, the ghost dashes the bottle of oil to the floor and walks off towards the wainscoting where there is a secret passage leading to the room in which he hides. But as he crosses the threshold of the wainscoting, a pillow is thrown at him from the twins' room. And this particular uh, pillow misses his head by just a little bit. So his fury increases all the more. Back in his lair, the ghost wonders. The ghost sits and he wonders, how exactly do I get these people scared? He decides he will make one more foray. A few nights later, he steps out of the room again. But it is dark, so he can't see properly, and he collides with a suit of armor, which is enough to wake up the whole house. Yet again, the whole house converge on the location of the noise to find the ghost sitting in a high back chair very calmly, surveying them and rubbing his left knee where it has collided with the uh, suit of armor. And immediately the twins take out their pea shooters and they shoot two peas at him, and they hit him both in the eye. So his fury knows no bounds. He runs up the stairs to the first floor landing and he decides he will let loose his maniacal laugh. And so he goes, and once again, by some cruel twist of fate, nothing happens. What does happen though is that Mrs. Otis comes out of her room with a bottle of tincture and gives it to him and says, "This is a bottle that you should take one spoonful of every night before you retire to bed. I'm sure your indigestion will be taken care of very, very soon." The ghost is stupefied. He beats a hasty retreat to his lair. He beats a hasty retreat to his lair. And there, the story sort of pauses while the other characters are brought in. The ghost will appear again, he will appear one more time. But before that, let me just take you through to the other characters that are there. So Virginia is 15 years old. There is a certain duke who is paying her certain attentions, and they are both riding together. The blood stain is being diligently removed by Washington using cleaning fluid, and every time it is removed, it is replaced by the ghost. Now, this is strange because nobody knows how the ghost is doing it because the library is kept locked, and the key to the library's lock is under Mr. Hirambi Otis's pillow. But then again, a ghost is a ghost. It can walk through walls, it can uh, have access to secret passages that nobody knows of. There are so many things that a ghost can do that a normal human being cannot, is it not? And now we come to the third appearance of the ghost. Now, this time, the ghost decides he's going to scare the living daylights out of the twins. He has had enough of their tomfoolery. So he decides he'll go in as the headless Earl. And he recalls in a sort of a memoir fashion that every time he stepped out as the headless Earl, some head or the other rolled. So he gets ready in his impersonation and he walks up to the twins' room. Now the twins are also ready for him. What these two children have done is they have placed a bucket of water on the door frame and they have left the door slightly ajar. When the ghost sees that the door is slightly ajar, he kicks it open and immediately the bucket of water crashes down on his head. And so the ghost is drenched. And once again, he makes a run for it, yelling in frustration. Very good. And this time, the ghost decides he's going to give up on trying to scare these people because they just won't be scared. They just won't quit. So, he decides that he will stay by himself and that they will do their own stuff. Enter Virginia. One day, she was out riding her horse when suddenly she caught her jodhpurs in a bramble bush and they tore. So instead of taking the main entrance, she goes by the back entrance of the manor and is crossing the tapestry room when she notices there is someone inside. So she opens the door and she realizes that she is face to face with the Canterville Ghost, Sir Simon Canterville. So she sits down and they start talking. And at first, the Canterville Ghost calls her family vulgar and cheap. And she replies, "It is you who is horrid and vulgar and cheap, not our family or us. You insist on scaring us even though we won't be scared. You insist on misbehaving even though we don't appreciate it. Something's got to give, my friend." And then he says, "Do you know I have not been able to sleep for 300 years?" To which Hannah's soul is troubled. She says, "How is it that you have not known rest for 300 years?" So he says, "You are aware that I killed my wife, and I am atoning for that sin, and I will only be allowed to sleep if I can make the almond tree in the courtyard blossom. That is a sign that the angel of death will have forgiven me and will definitely allow me to rest in peace. Will you help me get that rest?" And Virginia, in her own way, cannot say no. And so she decides to help him with the ritual. Now she is in the secret passage that the ghost uses, and the tapestries along the walls all tell her that this is not the right thing you're doing. Turn back before it's too late. And the ghost keeps pulling her, urging her on, and she chooses to trust the ghost this one time. Meanwhile, in the house, all hell has broken loose because Virginia has missed her tea. Virginia is nowhere to be found. It is nearly 7 o'clock at night. So the Duke and her father, Mr. Otis, they get hold of the best horses in the stable and they start looking all around the country for her. And they can't find her. They return home at night and they say that we can't find her. We'll have to involve Scotland Yard. And so it comes to be that they are about to retire for the night. However, at the stroke of midnight, Virginia appears at the head of the stairs and says, I want you all to come with me. The Canterville Ghost is dead and he needs to be put to rest. And immediately Mr. Otis, he runs up to Virginia and says, you foolish child, where have you been? We have been looking all over the country for you. And she says, Papa, I will explain later. Please just come with me now. And she takes them to a small room in the secret passage, which contains a skeleton on a bed, a bowl full of dust which could have been bread, and a pitcher which has caught mold that probably held water. And she says that we must give the ghost a proper funeral, a proper burial. That is the only way that his spirit will know true rest. And so, 3 days after this incident has happened, and the ghost has left the house, a procession consisting of Lord and Lady Canterville, the Otises, and the Reverend of the parish go down to the cemetery and they lay the ghost to rest. And as the final clod of earth is placed on the coffin, the tree, the almond tree, starts to bear fruit. And so the prophecy is fulfilled. The ghost is forgiven by the angel of death, and the ghost can finally know peace after 300 years of eternal war that took place within himself. For when he became a ghost, he had only one purpose: to scare people. And here Oscar Wilde shows us the humanity in people, that they are willing to help even that they are willing to help even a ghost to get some peace. And that is the Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. That is how it plays out. That is how it ends. And I personally believe it ends on a note of hope that yes, currently things are bad, but there's always tomorrow. And as the Lost Prophet sang in one of their songs called Last Train Home, there's still tomorrow, forget the sorrow, and I can be on the last train home. So that's it for the session. Stay strong, stay vigilant, stay safe. 2020 is over as of midnight. Let Hannah guide you to rest. And let us hope that 2021 brings with it good cheer, good tidings, and an end to COVID. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. I will see you again on Sunday with a funny story. Until the time we meet again, this is the Bilge Master signing off. Take care of yourselves.